But you know what? They say everything for a reason and nothing before its time. And what a time to be alive. We're going to go straight in for the jugular, straight in for the fresh news, hot off the press. 5v5. The leaks were out. People were getting frustrated. They're talking about what's going on. And now we've had the official announcement. Maestro, I'm going to start off with you because obviously that's what we were peppering on about before. Obviously, you
Right,
pressed
right.
the live button.
So, His Excellency Turkey Al Sheikh, big up to His Excellency. I hope he's enjoying a happy Ramadan over there with all of my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters around the world. Look, big announcement. And there's like a lot of subplots to these announcements as well, right? So 5v5, we've been waiting with a lot of anticipation. What are the weight classes going to be? We won't know the fighters just yet, but we can make some guesses. First choice went to Frank. Big Frank picked the big boy division, the heavyweights. I can see why. He's got a great roster of heavyweights. We're going to go through that in a moment, I'm sure. Eddie Hearn countered with the featherweight division, 126 pounds. Again, we're going to go into that. Eddie's got a nice little roster of featherweights. I had the pleasure of seeing one fight recently. I'm talking about Raymond Ford. I was in upstate New York to see him win the WBA featherweight title a few weeks back in a very exciting fight. Frank countered with the middleweight division, another historic division, a lineal division, one of the original weight classes in the sport of boxing. We can see why Frank has got some good talent at middleweight. Eddie, not so much, right? Eddie counters with the light heavyweight division.
Oh, Danny. Base.
That was a jab to the stomach of boxer and Ben Shalom and Joshua Buatsi, because there is no way I can imagine Queensberry not sending Anthony Yard to the 5v5, which to me kills any possibility of Buatsi getting a shot at Yard. Just my opinion. I'm sure the rest of this esteemed panel is going to get in there. And then finally, the mystery division. His Excellency, he came back. It surprised Eddie. Eddie didn't like it too much because he came back again with the big boy division, the heavyweight division, but with the caveat, which he said at the end, saves Eddie. He's allowing Eddie to pick somebody, and Frank for that matter, to pick someone who's not necessarily currently within the Matchroom or Queensberry stables. And then the last thing that was mentioned, something that I had no idea about, each win counts as 1 point, but then there's a captain system where each team elects a captain, and that particular captain, their win will represent 2 points. So I hope that was a summary up to your standards, October Red, and I'll throw it right back to you. I'm very excited about it. Go for it.
Listen, what a beautiful, like I said, what a beautiful way to start off. It almost feels like it's our card. It almost feels like it's us announcing the fights, fully gassed about that. But I've got to do my dues and I've got to be respectful to the lovely, lovely listeners. So shout out, first of all, to Philip Answer. Good evening. Hot Pies. Good evening to you, Reese Cooper, Sir Alex Ferguson, North Bank Brain. I'm starting to see the defeated family in here, strong as ever. But I've got a shout out to my new brethren across the pond, Blue Buds Sports TV, a man that's bringing the controversy, the man that's making people moan, but they're still talking about the US and the UK connection. So thank you very much for the super chat, and we'll be going live on Wednesday night.
That's my guy, Blue Blood, straight out of Strong Island, New York.
Okay, so he's a fella New Yorker brethren then.
My brother right there, Blue Blood TV.
I'm loving this. Right, I'm going to go to Dani because you've hit so many points there. And Dani's sitting in the corner with his... You might as well, next time, Dani, just wear a string vest. You might as well just bring it fully old school and just drop the string vest. Just drop that Sunday string. We need it. Summertime's coming. String vest. Dani.
Stop pep popping.
Dani,
what was he pep popping?
Grandfather.
Huh? Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, don't take your top off. We're not going to do that today. Danny, we've got to talk about it. Light heavyweights. Eddie's brought in the light heavyweights. Anybody that doesn't know, Craig Richards is familiar to Danny. Danny, how's this going to work? Not meaning to put man on the spot and that, but
how's it going to work? Well, I think, we've heard Eddie. He said that if this weight gets called, well, he's called the weight himself. He said he's looking to put Craig Richards in. This is not, this is public knowledge. It's all out there. So it's for who Frank Warren decides to pick, and who he decides to pick for his team, for them to step up to the plate. We know Craig. Craig gets in there with anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a week notice and jumping up a whole weight division on 5 days notice. Do you know what I mean? After already fighting, he can do that. He goes in fights where he's the underdog. People think he's going to get blasted out in a couple rounds. He ends up losing, close decisions, the closest on the cards out of anybody thus far, i.e. talking to Dimitri Bivol. He gave Boatsy all he could handle in their fight. So we know Craig is going to step up, being that Eddie says he's going to choose him. So it's for Frank Warren. He's got a roster of light heavyweights himself. You've got the likes of Anthony Yard, who's leading the charge over there. You have Willie Hutchinson. You have Zach Parker. You have Ezra Taylor. You have Carol Ituama. So it's for whoever Frank Warren decides to pick for them to step up to the plate. Most people would say you would always want to put your best foot forward in your rostering, because you're trying to get your 1 points and your 2 points if you put that person as a captain. So yeah, it's for who most people would figure that he would want to pick Anthony Yard, because Anthony Yard's his best fighter over there, as Maestro said. So if he does, then let's get it, because I know there's talks of Anthony Yard versus Boatsy, but I'm pretty sure that Turkey Al Sheikh would probably win a purse bid against Ben Shalom, to sway Anthony over to fight. So if Anthony wants to fight Craig for the Saudi bag, I'm sure he can get that 1.5 or 1 million he so well desires over in Arabia. So it's for him. If he wants to do it, he can do it. If not, if it ends up being one of Frank Warren's other fighters, people might have questions. Frank Warren might not be too pleased. He'd have to go to the bench of his subs. Because I don't think, putting any of the other light heavyweights Frank's got against Craig, it's it'd probably be very one-sided. They're all good fighters in their own right, but, Craig would be the heavy favorite, I would say, but they're all good fights. And yeah, I can't wait to see who Frank Warren decides to pick, and which one of his fighters decide to step up to the plate and take that shot at the Spider.
Base just sits there, cool, calm, collected. He's smiling. So this is gonna be tasty.
No, I just wait for my turn. That's all I do. But look, I mean, we don't know officially any of the fights that are going to take place. We've heard a lot of rumors. We've heard a lot of speculations. The one issue I actually have with the 5v5 as it is right now, but don't get me wrong, I love the concept, but this whole being able to draft in ringers, I don't like that. I think it should be who's on your roster. Like I don't know about you signing someone to a one fight deal just to participate on your behalf. I don't know, because that's not really Matchroom, that's not really Queensbury, in my opinion. If we're going to talk now, let's talk about the actual weight classes. I'm surprised, if I'm going to be honest, that Eddie picked 126. He obviously has got a champion at 126. Raymond Ford, amazing. And that's who he's going to pick. He's already pretty much said it. But that was supposed to be, I guess, on the basis that, Nick Bull wins the belt against Ray Vargas. You have a big unification on there, and it makes a whole lot of sense. And now ultimately, you've got Ray Ford with, let's face it, he said that he's found it a bit difficult recently to be making 126. He's still growing. He just turned 25. Like, his body, he's ballooning out of that weight class. So the Saudi bag is a big motivation to make it one more time. But the prestige to be a unified champion before you exit is, to me, what I thought that it would have been. So for Eddie to pick that weight, knowing obviously his guy in a sense has got everything to lose, nothing to gain, I would have thought Frank would have rather got his guy another free crack at a title. That's what to me would have made more sense. So um, there's that. Obviously, you knew the heavyweight was going to be in there at some point. Eddie is I guess a bit under the cosh because his heavyweight roster has thinned considerably as of late. He's only got under actual contract Johnny Fisher and Anthony Joshua. I don't know what the deal with Dempsey McKean is at the moment. Obviously, he was the one that let Zhang go. Hergovich is a free agent. He left last year August. So I mean, maybe if you re-sign him, you could say, well, he was it was a co-promotion from Matchroom before, so fair enough. You got Justice Huni as well. Is he really ready for a 5v5 based on obviously how his last performance went with Kevin Lorena? So it's those ones is tricky. Light heavyweight, I'm not gonna lie to you, light heavyweight is a lock for Matchroom at this point. The light heavyweights on Frank's side, outside of potentially Anthony Yard, you've got Zach Parker moving up, he can't decide if he wants to fight at light heavyweight or super middleweight at this point. Willie Hutchison, he's getting looked at by Connor Wallace from Australia. He's looking at Hutchison as food currently right now, so he definitely isn't of the level of Craig Richards. And we saw what happened, to him before, the way he's been brutally knocked out. Ezra Taylor, very good talent. I like Ezra, but I don't think they're going to put Ezra in there as their their champion of the weight division just yet because he's still building.
Still raw.
Neither they're not gonna put Carol Latwama in there either because Carol Latwama he's obviously still on his rebuild after the Moderna fight. So yeah, you've got Zach Parker who is looking very frail, and you've got Anthony Yard who looks a lot more set on a Joshua Buatsi fight than he looks set on a Craig Richards fight. Make of that what you will. But yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, I think Frank's got a very strong roster at middleweight. I think that's going to be a I mean, look, we know that the only one that really Eddie can pick is Amar Williams because Felix Cash is already set to face Tyler Denny at the end of May. And he's only got, those are the only real two middleweights he's got. So yeah, I mean, look, Frank's holding a lot of pretty big cards at the minute. It's not looking great on Eddie's side just yet, if I'm gonna be totally honest.
You know what? I like the fact that you've said that because I don't usually look at all of the weight categories with every single promoter. But what this 5x5 has done, 5v5, sorry, it's highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of each stable to the point. The caveat that His Excellency's put in is that you can pick a heavyweight, that's not necessarily signed to you as kind of like like a wild card. And like you've just mentioned at a couple of the other weights, there's only like 2 or 3 people. So yeah, it's really highlighted that there's a disparity in who's got the fighters. The light heavyweight division, yes, is good because Craig was already tipped for that. Yes, obviously the king of the light heavyweights over on Frank's side is Anthony Yard. Will he be tempted to take that fight? Because obviously we know it's a lucrative fight. It's a financial win. Or is he going to skip over and obviously do the Buatsi Yard fight, the fight that all of us, including myself, have been talking about for what seems like forever? Tricky. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maestro.
look, I'm tipping my head towards East London versus South London. And I'm talking about obviously Anthony Yard versus Craig Richards. And you add in the fact that the main event of the card is going to be for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world.
It makes sense.
Better be and
Bivol.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better stage to be on if you're a light heavyweight than that stage. I mean, are we really going to compare Ben Shalom and Boxer and what they're doing on Sky to that? And you know that the pot is going to be sweetened by Turki Al Sheikh, His Excellency. They will make it his worthwhile. They'll make it worthwhile for him to take that shot against Craig Richards, who I think is the most underrated of all of the UK light heavyweights.
Said that today.
And I would love to see Craig personally get this shot on this great stage against another fellow London fighter in Anthony Yard, someone who's been in that light heavyweight circle for years with him and who he has not yet met. So I think that for Craig, it's the best fight. I think that for Yard, it's the best fight. The only people I don't think it's the best fight for, honestly, are Joshua Buatsi and Ben Shalom. But at the end of the day, that's not their concern. And I'm talking about Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren specifically, and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. So, look, I'm not a gambling man, you know, but if I were to gamble, I would be putting my chips on East London versus South London. You know what I mean?
He's flexing. Danny wants to jump in, but let me just shout out my respect to the people in the chat. We've got Reese Cooper. I think we've got that pound for pound. Jack, good evening. Reese Mack, Ayman Khan. Shout out to Ayman Khan. Ayman Khan works for Seconds Out, but he always shows my channel maximum amount of love. So respect to you, Ayman. Ron A. Yard and Richards are supposed to be good friends. And I heard somewhere that they don't want to fight. Bar humbug, Ron. We heard that with Buatsi and Yard. We don't care. It doesn't matter about friends. Dan Aziz
it's
and
not
Craig.
they
Dan
don't
Aziz
want to
and,
fight.
Go
It's
on.
not they don't want to fight. There's one person more averse to that fight than the other. That's what it is. But yeah.
Danny's hair starting to grow back on his head, so I know he's getting frustrated. I'm going to run through this. I think Queensbury will pick Zach Parker to face Craig Richards. Have a look at Zach Parker's last performance. Dubois, the Religion of Gravity, Dubois versus Hergovich would be a hard fight for Triple D. But that's all he seems to take. I think Parker beats Richards. Okay, everyone's got an opinion. Eddie has Hergovich and Wilder for his heavyweights. And good evening to you, Waved. Let me just make sure everyone's on here. Muller, good evening and bless up to you as well. And Matchroom, that's a fair point. Easy Box. Matchroom's got Khalil Cole. I forgot about him.
Big
to
stepper.
be fair. Yeah, big stepper, isn't it? They've got him. We'll see what happens.
Just before we
go
carry
on,
on, can I just say quick happy birthday? It was his birthday on Thursday to Philip Answer in the chat, turned 15. So very young guy. But yeah, he was on the stream yesterday. Big ups to him, and he had a great weekend from what I've heard.
Oh, happy birthday to you, young man. Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to see what's going to happen, but it looks like once again, and I'm just going to say it how it is, it looks like, all right, fair enough, it's business reasons, but boxer's just been left in the bin yet again, because this is going to swallow up any potential fights, because it's going to be lucrative, isn't it? Are they going to be able to match Saudi money to obviously get Yard to fight Buatsi? Danny, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and I was just agreeing with Maestro. He said that the pot will be sweetened by His Excellency. You know, there'll be a lot of cedar honey up in there in the pot. So yeah, and it's good that what was that guy called? The Gravity guy. He said he believed, you know, if Frank does decide to pick Zach Parker, he believes Zach beats Richards. You know, Craig, you know, going in once again as the underdog, but Craig, you know, he takes all challenges. He doesn't step aside, he doesn't divert, he goes straight ahead. He's happy because remember, Craig's been with Matchroom from the beginning of his career, and Anthony Yard even has been with Queensbury from the beginning of his career. So it would be good for them to showcase themselves on the undercard of, you know, the two kings of Beterbiev and Bivol, you know, maybe as team captains, because, you know, we talk about South London versus East London. We talk about people repping your ends. Like, you're actually repping your company that you've been with from the beginning and who've built you in your career thus far. So where better would it be to fight on a show of this magnitude when you've got the undisputed light heavyweight championship fight on the card in literally the mecca almost of boxing.
Excuse the pun.
Pardon the pun, the big pun. But yeah, so you know, if it goes on to box, if Anthony Yard decides to fight Buatsi on Boxer, I heard things about stadium fights and that, but it would really probably be on an undercard of Chris Billum Smith, down in Bournemouth on the beach. Is that really, is that really? I'm just saying, is that really the way, it's not really glamorous, is it? It's not really the way you want to be going. I don't know. But, it's not my business at the end of it. All I know, I'm in the Craig Richards business, and I know we're ready to fight any and anybody. People talk about skills and who's not on whose level. We're here. We're here at the end of the day. We're here.
Craig's on that level. Craig proved that already against Bivol. Craig's on that level.
Yeah, so we're ready. We're ready
for that level. He's on that level. Yeah. Been on that level.
He was on that level years ago. I spoke to young Ben Whittaker this afternoon, and I posed like that triangle of fighters with Craig Richards, Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yard, and he said he believes that Craig Richards beat. The interview's not out yet. The conversation's not out yet because I haven't edited it because I'm here with you. He said he believes Craig Richards will beat Anthony Yard. But he said he believes Anthony Yard will beat Joshua Buatsi. Interesting that, his take on it. He said that he mentioned the fact that Craig Richards has got a jab. Craig is a jabber, and obviously the first person to beat Yard was Lyndon Arthur with that same shot. And he said, one thing I will say about Craig is that his jab is phenomenal. Lyndon Arthur with yeah, but I'm on about Lyndon Arthur. That's what Ben Whittaker mentioned.
Kovalev done him with the jab as well, though.
Yeah, but Ben Whittaker mentioned Lyndon Arthur. So he was saying that he does believe that. He said, these are good fights. And he was giving me an opinion, not being disrespectful to anybody, but he does believe that based on Joshua Buatsi's last couple of performances, that Yard beats Buatsi. So, yeah, interesting. The light heavyweight division is a really, really interesting division.
Yeah, styles make fights. And going back to what Base said about he feels that the weight pickings is probably favouring Queensbury more. But I'd think, going into the Ball and Ford fight, Ford would probably be picked as the favourite. So maybe it might be 2v2, and then the wild card is we don't know who they're going to pick. So I think the featherweight and the light heavyweight is probably favouring Eddie Hearn, and then the middleweight and the heavyweight is favouring Queensbury, and then the wild card, then it is where it is. It might come down to that wild card on the wire.
Well, the wild card is the heavyweight division.
Who would you sign?
That's go ahead, October.
The ones that are not they've said that they can pick a fighter. Who would you pick if you're Eddie Hearn, or who would you pick as your heavyweight? Who's a strong contender as a heavyweight? Obviously, we can't have Anthony Joshua, so we have to forget him.
No, but that's the thing.
So he's signed. Sorry, the ones that aren't signed. Anybody else out there?
We'd have to know who the unsigned guys are. Guys that don't have valid contracts with other promoters.
Hergovich?
No, he's
Fabio Wardley. Which, fair play, somebody just
okay. See, I was thinking guys like Andy Ruiz, some of these PBC guys that don't have contractual contracts with, or I should say, just contracts with promoters. I don't know what Wilder's situation is like contractually, but then I also heard that Wilder might be fighting Zhang, and Zhang I still believe is a Queensbury fighter, is he not? Or I know he's signed.
Zhang is Queensbury.
Yeah, one fight left, so Eddie Hearn could maybe get Wilder in there, or somebody else said Hergovich.
But he's not with Matchroom. Hergovich is not with Matchroom. They've said they've worked with him for. Easy Boxers put Hergovich with Matchroom. I don't think he is.
I thought he had a co-promotional deal with Sauerland.
He did.
Sauerland.
He became a free agent last August after the Dempsey McKean fight.
There you go. So Eddie Hearn could potentially scoop him up if he's still a free agent. But that's by no means a guaranteed win against Zhang. If Queensbury goes with Zhang. Look, all of these discussions are what makes this card exciting to me.
Dillian White?
There's a lot of intrigue, right? Go for it, Danny. What were you saying?
Dillian White, is he signed at the moment currently?
I wouldn't
Nope.
put Dillian in
You know
there.
you know who I'd go for? It's a very risky move at this point because we don't 100% know what he's got left. But if it was me, I'd take the gamble on Michael Hunter. He just fought last night
Bounty hunter.
in Mexico, like the
Did he?
bounty hunter. Yeah, in Mexico.
Guadalajara.
I mean that to me is a very wild card signing, and if we're looking at sort of speed and power, he's got a nice combination of both. He's got one of the best sort of boxing brains at those weights,
Yep.
and he's comfortable fighting big guys. And you put him against Zhang, yeah, obviously there's gonna be a big power disparity, but Michael is pretty quick to be able to sort of get out of the way of certain shots, and he can definitely last the pace. That would be I would take the gamble with that one if it was me.
You know what? I like that. I didn't even think about Michael Hunter. He's one of those fighters that are there and he's good because I never forget his bout that he had with Usyk at Cruiserweight. And I enjoyed that fight very much. And when you mentioned about the boxing brain, yeah, we definitely saw it in that fight as well. So yeah, Michael Hunter, that's nice. What about Bacoli? Is Bacoli free?
Well, I think he's
No,
signed
he's
to
with
Sky.
Is he?
But I don't know because that would be the first person I go after, Martin Bacoli, as long as he's in shape. You know, that's the main thing with Martin. He's got to be in shape. It looks like he balloons up to over 300 pounds at this point between fights, based on the weight that he fights at. So I don't know what he gets into when he goes back to the motherland in Congo, but I'm assuming it involves a lot of food.
I was wondering what he was going to say. Then I thought I was going to have to shut down the stream.
No. But
and you know where I'm going.
What about Frank Sanchez? What about throwing him into the mix?
But don't all these PBC fighters technically have contracts under PBC?
No, PBC
because Ray Vargas. No, I know PBC is not an actual promotion, quote unquote. Yeah. But remember, in the Knockout Chaos press conference, Ray Vargas himself said thank you to my promoter Al Heyman.
Yeah,
there was no slip of the tongue. He said my promoter.
No, look, for all intents and purposes, Base, you're right. I mean, the PBC operates as a promoter, but what they do to not abridge or run afoul of the Muhammad Ali Act, which for very legitimate reasons separates promotion from management, right? Because obviously there's an inherent conflict of interest there if you're acting as a promoter and as a manager of a fighter. What they do is they sign agreements with actual promoters. So in the past, it was guys like Lou DiBella. Currently, it's Tom Brown, right, and his promotional company, or Samson Lukovitz, his promotional company, who, by the way, is David Benavidez, and I don't know if we'll talk about him later.
Oh yeah, we will. We're not missing anything.
His promoter of record is actually Samson, but a lot of these guys, they essentially work out of loyalty to the PBC, not because they actually have a promotional agreement with them. And I don't know if you guys remember this, you probably will. When Eddie Hearn was making his foray into the United States, he was even confused about, like, well, you guys say you're your own promoters. You guys say your own boss. What about Lions Only Promotions? Like, why am I not calling you? Why do I have to call somebody else? A lot of these PBC fighters are technically signed to their own promotional company. Sweet Hands Promotion with Caleb Plant. Lions Only Promotion with the Charlo brothers. I could go on and on and on. So yeah, it's quite tricky. So, Frank Sanchez, I honestly don't know who he's signed to. But if I was Eddie, he'd be one of the first people I'd be trying to figure out signing as a wild card personally.
What about that Cheney guy?
Who?
Cassius Cheney.
Yeah.
I don't know who he signed.
He fought the other day, actually.
I'd grab him.
He's the last person to knock out Trevor Bryan.
Yeah, he's ranked in the WBA. He's been ranked in the WBA. I don't know. That's another one.
I'd grab him if I was.
Ajit Caballero, Eamon's put in there. He's promotional free.
Fighting soon, though, isn't he?
He's not been mentioned yet.
Oh, that's a
Nah, he's-
that's
not
a good
been
one.
mentioned yet, so that's a good
Yeah,
shout from Eamon.
Caballero's a good one.
No, but Caballero's supposed to be in an eliminator against Sanchez for
That's what I
something.
thought.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
what they were
When I
saying.
spoke to Gareth A. Davis a couple of weeks ago, he hinted Zilly Zhang, Deontay Wilder, Ajit Caballero will be hearing news on them soon.
okay.
So it makes sense that that name's been dropped into it as well. So watch this space. I think that's a good shout, Eamon, because like I said, Gareth mentioned it and he kept on hinting it, and he did it last time I spoke to him. He says, "Oh, I'm not saying anything," but obviously he goes, "These people will be coming back."
Can I just
So I
do
won't be surprised if he's
quick announcement here? Everybody that's watching across the various platforms, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you're unfamiliar with the other channels, check us out afterwards and make sure you subscribe. So do that for us, please. But definitely hit the like button right now. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. Daniel J. Boltan, what's the chances of Eddie giving his old mate Dillian White a call? I'd say thin, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I think there's still a problem with his licensing, I've heard. And I know, Dillian, he always feels he's kind of been second fiddled around and stuff, and he didn't really look too impressive. And he still looks like he's got a bit of timber, but he's got time if we're talking about Junior first. But I don't think as a wild card, Eddie would pick him when there's other guys out of contract available, because you really want to put your best foot forward.
Yes, you
At the
do.
end of the day. And sorry to keep harping on, but also, I heard, I read some excerpts that Anthony Yard was saying there was some unrealistic demands and stuff like that from
Are you being
somewhere.
salty, Danny?
No, I'm just saying there's problems going on with deals with the Boazzi fight. So what we're better to get a great deal where there will be no no problems, no issues, no problems, no issues. If you sign for the 5 versus 5 versus Craig, I'm sure money demands will be met by His Excellency. And yeah, he Turkey Al Sheikh, he sets the rules, and everyone, does as they're told, and everyone, is happy days. So yeah,
You need commission. I'm telling you now, you should be on paid commission, because these sales techniques are epic. If the promoters are watching, because there might be, or they might have someone that they know that's watching, have a listen, because this is kind of like the word of the streets. Have a look at the chat, see what the people are putting in the chat. This is the voice of the paying fans. We're the ones that are going to buy these pay-per-view fights. So you might have a listen to see what we're saying down here on the floor. But now that we've got
Eddie
that
Hearn, sorry, one
Yeah,
second.
go on.
Eddie Hearn and anyone representing Matchroom, if you are watching, let's not forget, I still need my matchmaker fee if the Yard and Richards fight happens, as I was the first person to champion it back in January, and I've got you on camera saying, Eddie, you're going to give me a fee. I want my fee. Just saying.
This is a perfect way to go into the next part of the conversation. Let's talk about people making demands. And I'm going to rewind back to the press conference with Canelo and Jaime Munguia and the post-fight conversation. I think it's on Fight Hub TV, so shout out to them, where Canelo stood there and said, look, if one of the promoters that I've worked with is willing to get me 150 million to 200 million to fight Benavidez, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not interested. So that was a sort of a demand. Maybe not as demanding as Gervonta Davis, send me 2 Ferraris, but it was still a demand. Then later on, we had Benavidez come out very humble, very polite, very respectful, almost wrote a letter of plead across Instagram, in Turkey Al Sheikh, WBC, Maurizio Sulaiman, everyone he could think of, atted them in that comment and said, look, I'm a fighter of the people. I'm going to donate my purse if I lose. I'm going to donate some of it if I win. Mexico v. Mexico. And what better place to do it in the land of make-believe, aka Saudi, on the Riyadh card. Talk to us about what you think about that. And this time I'm going to go to Base first.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. That was a lot more cringe than what Canelo said.
Yeah.
That was like number one, because Canelo didn't beg no one. He just said,
Are you
look,
calling him a beg?
That was begging. That's unadulterated begging. And the thing is, I know that he's not necessarily begging for the 150 for himself. Yeah, but all Canelo said was, look, he doesn't offer me anything apart from an extra 25 pounds on the night. If you guys, this is the way I kind of see that comment, right? And I could be totally wrong, but the way I've interpreted it is, okay, to him, this is the biggest fight of his career. This is the biggest payday he's ever going to get. To me, this is just the same. This is another. This is just another fight. He doesn't have any belts for me to gain. There's no new legacy I get from this. It's me defending my belts. So if you guys are saying that this is the fight and this is the biggest fight that I can have, okay, well then pay me like it's the biggest fight I can have. If not, then I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do until such a time as I have to fight him. That's how I've interpreted it. Because I don't think he's honestly saying he wants 150. I think he's just saying, if you think it's that big, pay me like it's that big. Otherwise, stop talking to me about it. Now, when you get the whole Benavides side, okay, so yeah, okay, I'll donate my entire purse if I lose. I'll donate a large chunk of it if I win. I'm a man of the people. I don't do this for the money. If you don't do this for the money, then why have you been hanging around 168 for a Canelo fight? Like basically killing yourself to make weight for year upon year if you don't do it for the money. Like your legacy realistically is at 175 and possibly at cruiserweight. That's where you are gonna end your career in one of those two divisions. Now, when we talk about weight bullies a lot of the time, sometimes I don't actually agree when people say people are weight bullying, because obviously, like you, if you make the weight, you can make the weight you deserve to be able to campaign there. But there's different styles of fighting. Like people said that Devin Haney was being a weight bully coming in at like 165 at the 140 range. But Devin doesn't fight in a style where his weight is an advantage. He fights behind the jab. He might jump into a clinch here and there, but he fights at a very controlled pace and he fights more at range, mid to long range distance, right? So if you've got that opposed to someone that naturally basically plows forward as an aggressive pressure fighter and uses someone that actually will put their weight on you and lean their weight on you, that is more of a weight bully tactic because you're naturally a bigger guy imposing your size on the smaller people that you're fighting.
Hmm.
So it's a totally different concept. So yeah, obviously, if you make the weight, you can make the weight, but based on your fighting style is what classifies as whether you're a weight bully or not. Now he's been down at that weight for the longest time, fighting people that he's much bigger than, fighting in a style that is just an overwhelming style for these much bigger, these much smaller guys. And he's only been doing that for the purpose of trying to finally get to the bag with Canelo because Caleb Plant basically got to the bag because he held onto his belt and waited for he was the last trinket of undisputed to make sure he got the most amount of money. Callum Smith, obviously, he should have moved up from before. He waited and was for the Canelo sweepstakes. Billy Joe Saunders was, he was waiting for the sweepstakes as well. Like that's what everyone does, which is fine. But now don't act as if, oh well, I was waiting for these sweepstakes, but now I don't care about the money. I want the legacy to fight him. And His Excellency said, no, I see you fighting the winner of Undisputed at 175, where you should be.
And that's what I liked because he literally took the power, said, look, I'd rather you fight the winner of Beterbiev Bivol, and you'd be I can see you're kind of like more easier to deal with than Canelo. So I like the way he took literally the power from all of them and said, oh, you want to come to me? It'll be on my terms. Because people
And you know
seem to
what?
forget that they've got to stop telling my man what to do. Stop it.
And that seems to only be happening in America right about now. The PBC fighters seem to be the ones thinking they've got a deluded demand of self-worth, weirdly. But even with that, just last thing before I even close off, it's weird because His Excellency said that he would have liked the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev to face Jaya Pataya, right?
Oh, yes,
At
I remember,
cruiserweight.
yeah. Mm.
Possibly catch weight, but definitely within the cruiserweight limit. And so that makes me think if Bivol beats Beterbiev, then more than likely, I think he would rather have Bivol face Benavides, even though they're stylistically they could probably work better. But I think the size between Opataya and Bivol is a bit too much. But
Bless you.
thank you. But I actually think if Beterbiev were to lose or win, I think it would make more sense for him to go up to cruiserweight, stop making the 175 and face Joe Alcantara. Actually, when he said that, I actually started thinking, I want that fight. I need to see Beterbiev and Alcantara in the ring, whether it's a 195 catch weight, whether it's a full 200-pound limit, because he used to fight there as an amateur.
But
That's what I would like to see move. I think that would be utter violence, and I need that before
Utter violence.
Alcantara.
It would be a
that.
bloodfest, wouldn't it? Guys,
I'd
just let me put in there. I just got to shout out to the chat because it's going a bit wild in the chat. 1 second. And this is a fair point from Gozi. Need to ask Tunde the question. Will Yard take the fight? Ben, I'm taking Ben Shalom, is saying that they've agreed their side. Obviously looking at Saudi money, and Chris is saying that he reckons it's Buatsi that's making unreasonable demands. Ron A has said it's just talk from Canelo, similar to when Fury asked for $1 billion to fight in Saudi Arabia. And like Solly from Top Boy said, don't beg, it's disgusting. I love that. Mr. Flash, Benavidez needs to focus on, I'm not going to pronounce his name, somebody else can. But if he gets past him, Bivol Beterbiev winner makes sense. If he's truly about legacy, make your own path rather than waiting on Canelo. Brian Harkin says Canelo is getting 35 mil for Jaime Munguia. And Jason Buchanan, blessings back to you as well. Benavidez is doing a Tyson Fury. Oh, I'll give my money to charity. And it's more of that. I think it was Maestro. You were going to jump in there.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with Base in terms of I see it more likely that Beterbiev would move up, or Beterbiev, I should say, would move up to 200, given that he was an outstanding elite level open class amateur fighter at the international level in that particular weight class, and then move down to fight at 175 professionally. Also, we've been hearing for years that Bivol can comfortably make 168 pounds. What I wanted to add to the discussion, though, is that, you know, there's a lot of empathy, sympathy, call it what you will, for Benavidez in this situation. But I want to shout out my brother Willie, Big Willie, from Boxeo Cubano, because he's been pushing the David Morrell Jr. fights as much as I have. And at the end of the day, exactly what Canelo was doing to David Benavidez been doing that to David Morrell Jr., right? He could have fought David Morrell Jr. instead of fighting Boo Boo Andrade. He chose to fight Boo Boo Andrade. He's not really fought that great level talent at 168, let's be fair, when David Morrell Jr. is been standing right there. So look, people got to understand, Canelo is already a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? To use a Floyd Mayweather Jr. analogy, right? We've left the pretty boy Canelo era, and now we're in the Saul Money Alvarez era. It's pretty obvious. He's interested in the big money fights. He's solidified. He's first ballot Hall of Famer already. He could retire today. His legacy is intact. Nobody should be questioning that. So at the end of the day, if people bring up to him, oh, well, you need this for your legacy, you need this legacy fight, he's not going to really take that seriously. He has his legacy. People know what his legacy is. His legacy is not dependent on David Benavidez. Now, if David Benavidez wants to make the strongest claim to the throne at 168, he's got a couple names that need to be dealt with. The first name is David Morrell Jr. The second name is a new signing to the Top Rank stable, co-promotional deal with Eye of the Tiger Management. I'm talking about former French Olympian. I'm talking about Cameroon-born, French-raised, now makes his home in Montreal, Quebec. I'm talking about Christian Mbili, right? We got guys that he can face, right, at 168. Instead, he's going up to 175 to fight for a vacant title against a guy who's been pretty inactive, fighting subpar competition since getting brutally stopped and temporarily retired by Artur Beterbiev. I'm talking about Gavaznik, okay? So look, You want to fight at 175? Great. Guess what? His Excellency is offering you a shot for undisputed at 175. Why do you need Canelo? Oh, wait a second. It's because of the money. So let's just be clear. You want the money? Canelo wants the money, right? Because you got undisputed options more at 175 than you do at 168 by the looks of it. So I'm just going to leave it there and I'll let my man Dani, because I know Dani.
Yeah.
Dani
I like that though.
Benavidez. I like David Benavidez too, but we got to call a
I
spade.
like David Morrell Jr. more.
David has not been that interested in fighting the other David, and I just want to make that clear. The other David's there. The other David's ready. But is David Benavidez ready for David Morrell Jr.? That's the question for you, Dani. Go for it.
Listen, David Benavidez is more than ready for David Morrell Jr. You're talking about Gvozdyk has been inactive. He's actually had 3 fights on the comeback. You said that he's had subpar competition. You saw him just obliterate, slice and dice Richard Bolotniks. That's not subpar competition, so that's a very good fight. Benavidez going up to 175 and fighting Alexander Gvozdyk is a very risky fight, and I rate him. Even Base has to rate him. Do you know what I mean? So that's a very big fight. David Morrell Jr., who has he beat to warrant getting a David Benavidez fight? You know, it's not for a belt. There's no money in it. He doesn't sell tickets like that. You know, Benavidez wants the Canelo fight for the glory. Yes, everyone. You know, people don't work for free, but Benavidez, you know,
you hear him sounding like Canelo right now?
No.
Everything you just said sounds like what Canelo's saying about David Benavidez. I find that very.
Who is he for?
No,
it's exactly the same thing. Who is he
for?
for? How is he warranted? You're right. He's
a guy who barely did any numbers in his last 2 fights. Any numbers at all. They were.
Okay. By the way, Dani, sorry, just
order.
before you carry on, I just want to say, just don't forget, David Morrell actually does have a version of a title which will get Benavidez to the title a lot quicker than waiting for the WBC. Just saying.
What, the Reggie belt?
Yeah, it will get him to that title quicker than waiting for WBC, who are in Canelo's back pocket.
Okay, well, I don't know, but yeah, all right. But the fact of the matter is that you're saying who has David Benavidez fought? All right, he's a 2-time WBC champion. Yes, he's lost them both for his own fault, but he's a former 2-time WBC champion, something that Morrell Jr. hasn't done. He's beat Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade, you know, 2 former world champions, something David Morrell
did nothing at 168 and won vacant titles at 160 and 154 and literally ducked the current world champion at 160. He admitted it.
And he ducked Zach Parker as well.
That's lovely, Mike.
He ducked Zach Parker.
Okay.
Not only did he duck Zach Parker, let's not forget, I'm sorry, I don't normally do this, but Demetrius Andrade has never beaten or even faced a former world, apart from the Benavidez fight, never faced a former or a current champion in his entire career prior to fighting David Benavidez. So that's not a good win to hang your hat on. I'm sorry.
It is a good win. But Maestro, I'll tell you something. Yeah, good thing he's been muted. What I will say is that you're saying about Demetrius Andrade is so poor. So why is your boy David Morrell Jr. fighting Andrade now?
Because he needs to show that he's better than David Benavidez. So his goal is going to be to destroy this dude faster than David Benavidez did. But here's a question for you. And this is the problem with a lot of the David Benavidez guys. And by the way, I like David Benavidez, but here's the problem with a lot of the people. I don't have any. He's a very nice guy. I've met him in person. I like him a lot, but I'm just calling out what I see. The problem with the argument, well, who has David Morrell Jr. fought? Who did Demetrius Andrade fight to earn the shot at 168-pound championship? He fought one guy.
2-weight world champ.
Yeah, no, at 168. And by the way, who did he fight at 160? These are the things. These are the questions. It's always easy to spin around the argument of somebody who says, well, they complain that Canelo says, what have you done? Who have you fought? But then they use the same argument against David Morrell Jr., but they don't use it against David Benavidez's own opponents.
Yeah, Andrade was meant to fight Billy Joe. Andrade was meant to fight Billy Joe, but Billy show pops. But the fact is, anyway, Canelo's talking about he brings nothing to the table. You know he brings something to the table because if you've got Mr. Iron Mike Tyson, heralding David Benavidez, giving him the monster name. Everyone's talking about this fight. Everyone says this is the fight everyone wants to see, more so than Munguia. Then, of course, Benavidez is bringing something to the table. But what it is, you are very weary. You have serious concerns about the Benavidez style because that work rate, because Canelo his work rate is depleted leaps and bounds. And I know he's not just talking about the 25 pounds. Yes, the 25 pounds is a factor, but we've had guys in the past who were people called them weight bullies, but
just like how people have concerns.
Jared Hurd, these guys can be beat if you've got the skills to pay the bills enough.
Right. Just like how people have concerns, Danny, about the slick southpaw style and punching power of David Morrell Jr., which is why the fight was made with Boo Boo instead. Like, the fight with David Morrell is right there right now. Why is he going up to 175 if he wants to be undisputed at 168? If the fight is so easy, if he hasn't fought anybody, again, what does Gavaznik bring to the table? What tickets is he selling? He's been one of his recent fights was on the off-TV undercard of a PBC pay-per-view. What does he bring to the table? See, these arguments don't stand the test of logic. They just don't. I'm sorry.
He brings to the table. He's a former world champion. I think unified, a great win against Adonis Stevenson. Gave Beterbiev his hardest fight. I know people like to say they give Beterbiev hard, but Gvoznik, in my opinion, and those who know and watch boxing properly, he gave Beterbiev I don't want to offend him. Beterbiev his hardest fight to date. Gvoznik is a serious fighter. You can't say what's he ever done? What's he done?
I know it's about what have you done for me recently. He fought Beterbiev in 2009 and got knocked the hell into a temporary retirement. That's what happened. Okay. But before that, you're bringing up Adonis Stevenson. That was in 2018. We're in 2024 right now. Here's who he's beat. He beat Richard Belazniks, okay, in Mexico. Before that, he fought another guy, Josue Obando, okay. And after that, he fought Isaac Rodriguez in an 8-rounder. That qualifies you to be getting. That brings more to the table than David Morrell Jr.? I mean, it's not logical. I'm sorry. It's just not.
I think it's both as equally as risky fights, in my opinion. I think they're both equally as risky, in my opinion. But the thing is,
Isaac Rodriguez is in an 8-round fight on an off-TV undercard of a PBC pay-per-view, qualifies you and brings more to the table than a guy who's been headlining events on network television in the United States and been knocking fools out.
All right. If that's your opinion, Sunshine.
It's my opinion. It's just my opinion.
That's your opinion. But the fact is, David Benavidez is on Canelo's heels. Canelo has serious concerns. He's talking about, he wants it in September, but Lukowicz says the problem is that they're going to have to do an 8-city tour, which it takes away their training time, which makes it a bit difficult. So he's saying it might have to be pushed to November, but we know Canelo ain't trying to fight in November, not in a big fight.
Why do I even remember the last time I saw a fight with an 8-city tour? Like usually they do 2 cities now, New York, LA, sometimes maybe Vegas.
I'm sure they'll go to Mexico for this one though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So there'll be probably about 4. So yeah, it's a messed up situation. I just hope that this gets done. I just want Canelo to fight my guy David Benavidez at the end of the day. And when David beats Canelo, guess what? Your boy David Morrell can get the voluntary defense. He can get that voluntary and get that work because Benavidez, trust me, he will run through your boy. It will be a tough fight, but he will run through your boy.
Right, we could go on with this because this is a debate that, to be fair, with both Canelo and Benavidez, I think both of them have got valid arguments in some of what they're saying. So I get it. It's one of them where it's going to be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. We could talk about it all day, but we've had. I'm going to go back to Matchroom card last night. We're gonna cover the UK card, what I want to say personally is a massive congratulations, obviously, to all the winners. Commiserations to the ones that lost, but I want to give a special shout out to Nico Levers, who I thought that fight might have got stopped, and it didn't, and he came back strong, and he got the stoppage. Campbell Hatton and versus Flint, an entertaining fight. I really enjoyed watching that. Confidence of Flint clearly showed from the beginning, but the one thing young Campbell wasn't doing was giving up. So fair play. Entertaining fight. Obviously didn't get the win. Ishmael Davis and Troy Williamson, a good fight. We saw Troy start to come back into himself later on, the second half of the fight. Ishmael Davis, yeah, he's good, but I just want to see him get a little bit more busy. He tends to just not throw as many as I'd like to see him throw. I just want to see him just a little bit more busy. Yeah, his style is his style, but hit first. There was a couple of times when he was just sat in there, didn't seem to be doing much. Obviously, got a shout out to Sandy Ryan, who absolutely, forced Terry Harper into retirement from the corner. Fantastic performance from her. And Dalton Smith, big up Dalton Smith, a man that doesn't really say much, but he's a really good boxer. I liked his performance, and he got the stoppage inside of the distance. I'd say with his career was a must win as well. But let's now start with Dani. So we go back round the other way.
Yes. I watched both of you guys watch along yesterday. Just shout out to Base and October. And also you did a Friday night as well. October.
Yeah,
so
I did.
That as well. Dalton Smith, that was a good body shot. Some people saying it reminded them of the shot that Daniel Dubois landed on Usyk out in Poland.
Wasn't low.
No.
I agree. The Dubois, definitely wasn't. The Dubois shot definitely wasn't low. I agree.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're saying that. They're saying that to say that Dubois shot was legal and he should be world champion right now because.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm with you.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they're saying that in a positive sense.
Glad to see Base agrees as well.
But yeah, well, Base ain't going to agree with us, is he?
Pure cap.
Eddie Hearn. So yeah, great win against Cepeda, and Eddie Hearn is like he was hanging out with David Rodigan last night because
sound clash.
He dropped my dub plate. When he got that mic, oh man, Eddie was in fast car mode, and that
he was like, "Is it still recording? Is it still recording?"
Yeah, he's been hanging out with a couple man on the block.
Listen, I don't know what he's on.
I think that gym stuff's giving him some new lease of life, and it's beautiful to see because the way he was calling out Adam Azim, and he was like, "Yeah, there's levels, like 3-4 levels." Even turning back to the trainers and getting them in on it as well. So yeah, that now there's a lot of pressure on Boxer to deliver because at the end of the day, Adam Azim, good fighter, good young fighter, but if you're pitching your guys in for European titles and making them European champions, you've got to be willing to defend against anybody in your continent, especially from your own country at the end of the day. Otherwise, it kind of just waters down the title, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like what happened with the Commonwealth title, because the Commonwealth title used to actually be rated higher than the British. It used to be, Southern area or Central area, whatever you do. Then you go into English. English weren't even there before. Then you go British, then Commonwealth. That's why they say British and Commonwealth champion. Commonwealth comes up because it was rated as the higher accolade, but because it got diluted by certain champions who weren't really willing to fight the best in their country whilst they had that title, they'll fight some guys from Tanzania and all these other countries that ain't really popping in boxing like that. It watered down the Commonwealth title. So I don't want it to become a thing where certain guys are skipping over the British title just to go and get a European, because then that waters it down. You know, we've got man like Tyler Denny now, who
Big up Tyler.
big up Tyler. He's on it. Like, he goes through the hard way. He's going winning the European title. He's fighting Felix Cash next. Like, this guy ain't trying to duck nothing. He's been trying to get a British title shot for the longest, and everyone knows he's been calling it out. But you know, the title's been held at Queensbury for the longest. Frank's got that middleweight British title on fleek, right? You know, so he's got his boys hanging on to it. So it is what it is. Tyler can't do much more, so he had to go and skip that British route and go and get himself the European. And he's fighting Felix, you know, a man who's beat a former British champion from Queensbury in Denzel Bentley. So big up to him. But so back to Adam Azim, is for him and Ben to try and find some kind of deal, because also it wouldn't hurt if he said, yeah, do you know what, we can do it, you know, hopefully can we get Turkey to the table and we might do it, because that way, remember, Ben needs to get in the dance. He's the man who's stuck outside the dance. Everyone's in the dance and Ben's outside the dance. He's got his dates, you know. Yes, we've got next week. That fight looks good. We've got Fabio Wardley versus Fraser Clark. That's a good card. But other than that, they're struggling. So you need serious opponents if you need your viewing figures, because the contract ends next year, June 2025. Is Sky looking to renew based on the current figures and the fights you're making?
That's going to be the last part of our conversation. So pause that there, because we're going to touch on that as well, because obviously there's an article that's come out, which I'll read out, and we can discuss that towards the end.
Okay, so yeah, so really, Dalton's on his heels, and rightly so, and Eddie's on. You know, they want that title at the end of the day. He's clearly shown, Dalton's shown he's clearly above British level. So the next is continental. So Adam, he has to now, you know, show that he is British/European level himself. So yeah, man.
But then I'll put this out to the panel, and this is for you to educate me. How do you end up being in a position where you've got a belt, or you're at the top of the list, a fight gets ordered, so you know from when you're in that list or you've got the belt, you're there for fights to potentially be ordered? So you're in that position. It's like you're putting yourself on a beacon of light and saying, I'm over here. But then when the challenges come or the fights get ordered, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. How does that even work? Because if you're in that position, then surely if a fight's ordered, I mean, can somebody explain that maths? Because it's not registering with me.
Didn't a similar thing happen with Fabio Wardley and Big Frage, right?
Fraser, maneuvered himself into a position where he became mandatory.
He calls for it, and then they're like, "Well, you know what? We're not really ready. We haven't been fighting."
But then how does that happen? Because how is that allowed to happen? Because if you're in that position where you're there to be, you know, to have these ordered fights, to have these mandatories, whatever it is, for then you to say, well, actually, no. And then it keeps on happening, because then my point is, if you keep on saying no, then you should be sanctioned, because you should have it taken away, because there's other people that want the opportunities. Look, shoot me down if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. A situation essentially happens where the interests of the promoter and or the manager of the particular fighter don't exactly converge with the interest of the sanctioning body organization who's called for the fight. So the BBBOC clearly wants to see these fights. But in the case of these fighters that we've been talking about, their management is like, look, you know, we're happy that you think that we're deserving of this shot or that this fight should take place. But deep down, we know that our fighter isn't really ready for it. This has happened on the world level as well.
But that's fine. That's fine. But then you have to move your fighter so they're not necessarily in that position, because with great power becomes great responsibility. You can't maneuver people into positions, and then, like I said, when those obstacles come,
there's one last piece to that, which is that it's usually in the interest of these sanctioning bodies to be tied to fighters that are fighting on TV, because the fighters that are fighting on TV, their purses are obviously bigger, right?
All
And
right.
they get a percentage of that purse.
Percentage of the fit,
So
yeah.
what oftentimes happen is a prospect that's signed to a television deal, right, gets put on TV. They're fighting for higher purses. Oftentimes, they're progressing at a level that might even be slower than somebody who's fighting off TV, but is fighting tougher competition, or at least is fighting more often, but for lower level pay. So the BBBOC or the WBC or the WBA or whoever, it's in their interest to sanction fights that are going to do big business on television. So they want a piece of the business, is what's happening too.
Yeah, but what the problem is, the reason why this is different to the Fabio and Fraser incident is because Adam is actually the European champion, and as the saying also goes, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So what a lot of promoters do in general, people say, oh, why ain't this person moving faster and going for a world title shot? Normally the promoter or the fighter says, well, if I go for that world title, even if I go and get the easy low-hanging fruit champion, which was normally like the WBO guy back in the day, now there's no going back. There's no going back now. I can't now go and fight, domestic level, low level guys, because now I've got mandatories on my back. I've got world-class guys I've got to fight here on out, rather than being able to build. Because once you're there, it's like Anthony Joshua. Yes, he went and got Charles Martin, who was, he won the belt because a man took a step and somehow his knee broke. But once Anthony Joshua beat Charles Martin, then he had, everyone just swarming on him. And ratings to Anthony,
I remember it.
He never turned down nothing. That's one thing. Joshua, AJ fought everybody, but once that happened, he just got, avalanche of opponents, and he just had to fight them all off at the end of the day. Win, lose, draw. He thought he's been having to fight everyone at the high level ever since.
Base, I need base on it as well, because I know base is like really good when it comes to the belts. He's my go-to guy. Base, explain it to me, and I'm saying that because somebody's put in the chat, a fight being ordered doesn't make it compulsory. I think this term ordered is only as valuable as the fighter who it relates to. Base, I need you to.
No, I mean, look, it's not compulsory, but if you don't take the order, you lose the jewel at the end of it, which is whatever belt is
The
for, or
position.
mandatory, or the position, whatever. Now, in terms of this, I mean, yeah, so Maestro is correct when he says that if you're on TV, if you've got a bigger platform, if you make bigger money, they're more likely going to pay attention to your fights. And even without your particular promoter campaigning and saying, look, we've been fighting this level, we've earned a shot, they're more likely to take a look at you and say, okay, well, we think that you're of a standard that you can challenge for this belt. And that's obviously where Adam, Azim, and Boxer themselves have put themselves into a position to say, well, this belt was vacated before, this is the champion, but we believe that based on his previous competition and what they've done and his trajectory, he's deserving of this. But skipping Commonwealth, skipping the British, skipping the English, I don't even think he fought for the English title. He may have, I can't remember. So you've gone there. So now you've got the European title, and you are the reigning champion of Europe. Now you've got Dalton Smith, who obviously his next natural progression, because he did do English, Commonwealth, and British, his next progression is European, unless he wants to jump straight to world stage. Now, what they're saying is, well, ultimately, you've got the next piece of our puzzle. No one told you to jump into that at 11 fights. No one told you that that's the way you need to go. But your promoter said that he's one of the best in the world at 140. We believe he's got the potential to be the youngest ever champion at 140 pounds, and and he's on the fast track. Your promoter said that. So from that happens, okay, well, this guy is the reigning British. He's defended it several times, so we know that he is the king of Britain. We believe he should be fighting for that European title, and
As a
that's
progression.
where we went. Exactly. And then Adam Azim, obviously, he's
with the WBC silver title.
well, yeah, there's that as well. But now Adam Azim obviously has that, but he's never held the British. But the British are looking and saying, well, we still believe that you can represent this country in such a way that we think you should be fighting for this title and the Commonwealth or whatever. That's a big free belt unification on the, on the continental scene of Europe, right?
Mhm.
But now, if so, therefore, the problem now comes if you decide that you don't take that fight, what you're basically announcing to the world is either you don't, or your team doesn't believe that, number one, that you are good enough to win it, that you are at the level you've claimed to be at, because you've said that you're fast tracking, you're going to be the world champion, and you're calling out people who are in the world rankings. I think he's already got a legit ranking in most of the sanctioning bodies as well. You've claimed that you're here, but this is the fight that you've been ordered by your belt to take, and also you've got 2 other belts on the line that you can acquire. If you don't take that, your next fight is going to be very interesting, because if you don't show that the fighter that you choose to fight is actually better than the person you turned down based on your quote unquote trajectory, you look horrendous. And I doubt you'll ever get any of these any opportunities like that again, because you would have proved that you're not actually deserving of them. That's the biggest problem when it comes to this. So that's why they almost can't turn it down now. They will, but if they do, his next opponent has got to be someone in the top 5 of every sanctioning body to prove that, or in the top, maybe the upper half of the lower part of the top 10, to prove that, well, we think this is a better opponent, and we're announcing ourselves on the world stage. Anything less than that, and it looks horrendous.
Maestro, I don't know if you spoke on this.
No, I didn't speak on this, but I have very little to add to what Base just said. What I will say, though, is it's quite interesting that this has happened to Boxer not once, but twice.
Three.
Three
times.
Sorry.
Caroline Dubois as well.
Yeah, right, then
Ferreira,
Well,
and
four
Riyad
then.
Pod. Four times. Yeah.
It's like that old hip hop line about playing chess when other people are playing checkers. I mean, in this case, it's Boxer seems to be playing checkers, and everybody else is moving pieces on a chessboard, thinking 3 and 4 steps ahead. They're putting their fighters.
But then sorry to cut you, but then what is the strategy? What is the strategy to get the fighters into these positions for them to turn down
that's what I'm
potential
saying.
fights? I don't get it.
It's a total lack of strategy. It's a total lack of communication between them and the sanctioning bodies to say, look, we're not going this route. We appreciate what you're saying. You can do all of this stuff behind the scenes. Remove us from there. We're not going to take that. But they let their fighters get into these situations where then it becomes embarrassing for their fighters. I mean, look at Adam Azim's timeline on social media. I mean, even Eddie Hearn was referencing it. I mean, people are questioning him, asking him why he's doing this and not doing that. The exact same thing was happening to Frazier Clark, to where Frazier Clark is out there admitting that it's a bad look for him.
But this is another thing, because Eddie Hearn has said it in a conversation yesterday, and I think it's Boxing Social. If I've got the channel wrong, please correct me. Where Eddie said, look, you're the mouthpiece. You're the one that's supposed to cover your fighters. Your fighters aren't supposed to be mouthing off on the internet or trying to defend themselves. As the promoter, you're supposed to provide that kind of like umbrella. You take the shrapnel that's coming. That the fighters shouldn't be doing it, because he was moaning, saying, you lot are asking me all of these questions. Why don't you go and ask the promoter? What are you asking me for?
Oh, that's a very good
I don't know
question.
the answer to Boxer's questions.
When you get to the point, whether it's David Benavidez or whether it's any of these other fighters, to where you're either having to beg for fights or people are questioning why you're not taking fights, to me that is a failure of management, and that's a failure of your promoter. That's their job. That's why they're being paid percentages of your purse to either set up these matches, to oversee that the business is going right, and essentially to act as a layer of protection between you and this like embarrassing negativity. Look, at the end of the day, at this point, he's got to take the fight, as far as I'm concerned.
Will he take the fight?
Look, if you think you're the best in Europe, not only the best in the UK, not only the best in England, Not even the best in an area like we saw Cabo Haddon fight for. No, you're saying you're the best on the continent. Well, then you should be ready and prepared to take on all challengers in the continent, right? Well, last time I checked, Dalton Smith is from Europe. I know, when I was living in England, they often said they speak about Europe as if it's something foreign, something separate, right?
Yeah.
Europe, it's over there. No, England is part of Europe, right? It's an island, but it's part of Europe, right? Just like Madagascar is part of Africa or whatever, or Japan is part of Asia. England is part of Europe. Dalton Smith is from Europe. You claim to be the best in Europe. Well, there's really no reason not to fight him. Now that it's gotten to this point.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's thrown up in the air. There are questions to be answered, and people might think, oh, we're just trying to throw Boxer under the bus. No, we've all pointed out, it's happened on more than one occasion. I've listened to promoters like Frank Warren literally say, well, I'm going to build this fighter. I'm going to put him through fights that are going to put him in a certain place in the ranking, and then we can go for this belt. But he's got this strategy where he builds his fighter and sets them towards that belt goal, whatever ranking. And then they're ready. Then it's like they're cooking these kids, getting them ready in the oven. They don't just say, yeah, superstar, bang, there you go. Okay, somebody wants a challenger.
It gets even more embarrassing than that. But to your point, Carl Moretti, Top Rank, told me the same thing. They don't just prepare their fighters for title shots. They prepare their fighters to win title shots.
Win.
Okay, yeah. Like on their side, It's like they're preparing their fighters to get put into situations where they don't take fights. But there's another aspect too. And this is going to sound like I'm coming out hard on Boxer, but I'm just saying what it is. It's almost as if they're also luring fighters away from promoters without any real idea or about what it is for them or plan for them. Case in point, Akoli. Akoli gets the Boxer, loses a fight on away soil, fighting in Bournemouth, right in southern England, in a nice part of the country, nice seaside town, if I do say so myself, right? And now, after losing that, he's going up. And what is he doing now? He's fighting for a bridgerweight title in Poland. Again, as an away side fighter. Again, as a B-side. I don't know. Like, I'm not out here caping for Matchroom, but it seemed like there was more of a structure in place when he was fighting with Matchroom. I mean, he was a world titleist at the time. And dare I say, a similar kind of situation also has happened to Buatsi. I mean, there seemed to be a kind of a coherent plan in terms of what Buatsi was doing, where Buatsi was going. He decides to leave, and I'll let the results speak for themselves in terms of how you guys think that's going right now, especially if he doesn't get the fight with Yard. What's the backup plan? What's plan B? Where are we going here right now? Right? So we had all of this talk. Oh yeah, Sky. It was the home of UK boxing. It's on a platform that everybody knows about. Again, I just don't see a coherent plan.
It's like putting an offer in for a house and you haven't got the mortgage.
Great analogy.
And I think that's
or the stamp duty.
Yeah, I just think we just close that off there. But we've covered enough of that. Can we please take our hats, tip our hats, give a sincere congratulations to our very own Sandy, the Savage Ryan. Her performance yesterday, it was enjoyable. I did a watch along for it. It was beautiful. And I'm going to start off with Base, because Base is kind of like really good when it comes to the female fighters, belts, rankings, all the rest of it. So Base, can I have your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I saw your watch along that. You weren't hiding your bias at all, but I loved it. I won't even lie to you. No, look, it was funny enough. I've just finished the weekend wrap before I came here, so it's actually uploaded, ready to finish as soon as we end up wrapping. But look, Sandy was great, but Terry made her look about 3 levels above where she actually is. And that's not a knock on Sandy Ryan. Like, Sandy Ryan's a great fighter, but Terry made her look like she was super elite. And for as good as Sandy fought, Terry fought completely the wrong way. I don't know what the tactics were and why she fought standing and planting her feet in front of Sandy Ryan, who is naturally bigger, who is someone that will impose her size and her will on you in the ring. Someone that you really should be trying to make have to work for every opportunity they get. Like, she just handed her the whole meal on a plate fresh out the kitchen like it was maid service, like it's a 5-star restaurant, and she's paid all the money for it. It's like, it's crazy. What lioness has ever seen just their prey sit down on the and say, yeah, oh no, you can kill me, it's fine, I'm not going anywhere, you don't even have to run, come,
Brutal.
just take it. And that's exactly what Terry Harper did. She didn't play to any of the advantages, the natural advantages she would have, which is to move and obviously to pot shot and to counter and to use her speed and her sharpness. She tried to stand toe to toe with someone that's just much bigger than her, naturally more aggressive, because we all know that Terry Harper struggled with confidence and things in the past. She's not that confident, aggressive person. Even at the start of the fight, I was looking at her, well, why is she's acting hyper aggressive for some reason? This isn't what I'm used to seeing from her. And Sandy was just on the other side of the ring, was looking like, is this really what you want to do? All right, cool. And we know what Sandy is. Sandy is she is a monster in every way outside of every way except for obviously when she's outside the ring. But in the ring, she's possessed. She's very much like Raven Chapman. Like, it's like she's actually coming to do serious damage. And unfortunately, Terry Harper learned that trying to go toe to toe with someone that is just bigger and stronger and probably just as actually more skilled than you because of a deep amateur background was always a recipe for disaster. And Steffi Ball did the absolute right thing, pulling her out in the fourth, but I think he should have threw the towel in halfway through that the fourth round, because there was
round.
no.
You didn't go to four, did it?
It did. It was
after
she pulled him out after the fourth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
halfway through the fourth, I think he should. I was on my live. I was saying, Steffi, throw in the towel. It's over. There's no reason to carry on. But yeah, great performance by Sandy. Still some things to work on, but the new team, I mean, she's looking a lot more composed and spiteful and accurate than she was looking previously. So no comment on how much the new team has improved or not, but it looks like she's made the right sort of the right decisions thus far, moving out to America outside of her comfort zone. But yeah, she was also highly complimented and probably a little flattered by the tactics that Terry Harper chose to use.
Maestro?
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that Base just said. I just do think, though, it's going to take time to tell whether or not the training team is a part of any perceived improvement. I actually thought that she beat Jessica McCaskill, number one.
Yeah. So
number two, I also think that Jessica McCaskill definitely is a better fighter, especially in these upper weight classes, than Terry Harper, and posed a bigger threat and would have actually been able to implement a more stand and trade style more effectively than Terry Harper. So I'd like to see another fight before I start bestowing accolades on the new training situation. And, I'm actually a fan of her former coach as well. I think he's a pretty top guy in terms of training. But it was an impressive performance. And Terry Harper, unfortunately, doesn't have the punching power to fight in the style that she fought. Definitely not against a Sandy Ryan. So it was, maybe that's all she could do, though, because when she was fighting in the lower weight classes, she could probably box and move a little bit because she had height and reach advantages over almost all of her opponents, something that she's given up since moving up in weight so
Fair
much.
comment.
So, time will tell. But what I do think, though, I thought this before the Jessica McCaskill fight, and I still think it now. I think she's the best in her weight class in the world.
Yeah, I like that. Dani? Well, I would like that. I'm biased. Anyway, Dani, sorry.
Yes, I didn't manage to actually see this fight yet. But
Just get in the bin.
No,
What do you mean you didn't
watch
see
along. I was watching your watch along.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, Soz. Yeah, love you, Danny. Sorry. Yeah.
Come on. So remember, I was doing the night shift, so I had to do the watch alongs. I was going
Oh,
back and forth
okay.
between you and Base on that. You know, I even threw super chats and stuff. You know, because that's you lot were getting me through it. So yeah, but the highlights I did see, it was she just kind of beat her up, didn't she? I can't say how the whole fight went, but yeah, she's her team pulled her out. Sandy showed that she's a level above, and Terry, she's got to go back to the drawing board. She said that she was going to drag her into deep waters, but she had a good sense of humor afterwards. She said, she just took her for a little paddle instead, because
Bless
Sandy
her.
went into the waters and drowned her herself in the end.
Which is what
So
Sandy said she was going to do.
that's what, but it's now it's about rebuilding again. She's done it before. I imagine she can do it again. She is skilled enough, but her lack of confidence and now being, basically knocked out standing and then now retired in your corner, that is going to do a lot of psychological damage to you, especially in women's boxing. You don't really see that many people getting KO'd, and stopped in your corner often in women's boxing. So that is going to be on her mind. Like, am I chinny? Am I frail? Can I not hack the heat when the going gets tough? So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of character building. She's gonna have to go on a journey. She might need to go down an ayahuasca type journey.
No, not bother with that. Not bother with that. We've seen the results of that in boxing. Leave that alone, my brother. Have that out of your system. No.
But hey, she's gonna need to do something. She might need to. Is Paul McKenna still around? I don't know, but she's gonna need to do something.
Yeah, we could cover the rest of the card, but I just want to quickly cover Frank Warren's card and a fight on Frank Warren's card. And if you want to speak about any other fight, please feel free to bring it in afterwards. But just the fight with Moses Atuma, heavyweight. I know it was a very short notice opponent. I think they spoke that he had a few days. Moses Atuma, another fighter that's getting tricky to match because of his power. Let's face it, it's a heavyweight division. We want to see heavyweights knock fighters out. Look, it's one of them. It is what it is. What do we think of that? I mean, I've always liked the model that Frank Warren's used with Moses. I think that he may have rushed Daniel Dubois. Wasn't the best model that he used for Daniel, but Daniel's on a rebuild and it's beautiful. And I think Frank's learning from that model and probably working slower and more better with Moses and building him. But I'm seeing a couple of Base. I got to go to you because you're straight in disagreement with what I'm saying. And I've got to go through the chat as well. But Base, go on.
Yeah, sure. I didn't see the fight. I wasn't able to
Oh.
watch it, and unfortunately, it didn't record on my Skybox. So yeah, I'm kind of in the lurch. With regards to what you're saying about the model, though, he's actually using the same model with Moses as he did with Daniel.
You
Don't be
reckon?
surprised. Yeah, because it's still the same similar levels of opposition. And when you look at it, ultimately,
What do
let's
you mean
go to
lower
when.
levels and then he's going to plonk him in with somebody difficult? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or he'll be maybe not even necessarily like what you would deem really difficult, but he's going to end up with these guys, and then he's going to go to a title shot similar to what Daniel did for the British title with Joe Joyce. It will be something along those levels, and apparently that's kind of as it's moving because he's about to fight for the English
Is
against
he
the
though?
winner of potentially against Adelier and Dacus. That's what we've heard. That he's
Yeah,
supposed
on
to be
May 18th, supposedly in Riyadh.
Yeah, well, I know that they're fighting. When soon as they fight, he's supposed to be next up. He was mandated. Obviously, they said, "Well, we'll decide how we proceed with that." But they might decide to go a WBO route like Frank normally does, or he might go a
Yeah.
WBA route. But either way, it's very much in keeping with Frank. Doesn't often do the traditional route with these kind of people that he thinks are like his stars. He'll find a way to get them to the world level in a so they can have more of a devastating knockout fashion as such. Whereas the other guys, he's not 100% sure, and they're the guys that he will take that full traditional route and get them all the way through. And then if they make it, then sort of they get their title shot afterwards. But yeah, look, Moses, I'm very high on his abilities, his skills. But as I said to you on, I think it might have been the watch along on Friday. I want him. I want his competition. I don't want no big step up, but I want competition that's basically coming to fight back. They don't even have to be good, but they're coming to fight back. Now he had obviously we had Doboshenko. That was good. We know how he operates and he'll give you rounds. So someone that's either going to give you the rounds or is going to come to give it a go and get knocked out in the process. There's a lot of boxers you can find in the lower levels that are of that ilk. I just don't want any more of the last minute this guy and getting punched on the gloves and falling and can't get up and those type of. We don't need that. He
Well,
doesn't need that. He's not learning anything.
in this case, Base, it was Mark Bates that stopped the fight. I actually was communicating. I think Dani, you got back to me on it. I felt that it was a slightly premature stoppage, but I
He
understand
was
that
smiling, wasn't he?
the guy was a no-hoper. With all due respect to the brother from Bradford, I think it was. Shout out to Yorkshire. But Mark Bates, the referee, stopped the fight. The funny thing is, I actually can see a scenario in which Frank was actually right in having him take on Joe Joyce when he did. I actually thought that Dubois was doing very well in that fight, were it not for the eye. I actually thought he was winning the fight at the time of the stoppage. So you could make the argument that if
I can't
he
remember it.
if he hadn't sustained the eye injury and had beaten Joe Joyce, then at that point you milk the British title for a little bit and you kind of develop him at that level, and then take him to European and then develop him at that level, and then eventually take him up to Worlds. I just think that they saw it as a big opportunity with the British title to give him that kind of an accolade. And obviously the eye went and the rest is history. And at the end of the day, the fight for the WBA Reggie belt was just low-hanging fruit, with all due respect to Trevor
But
Bryan.
with Dubois, there was too many Tetes and Fujimotos in there. He needed other like more credible guys that were gonna get him ready for that title. 'Cause remember Joe Joyce? Okay, everyone thought slow, whatever, but he was still proficient. If you look at the way he started his pro career compared to the way Daniel started his, you could see he was much further along. And
I
he's just such a
understand
much
that, but I also
bigger
remember
guy.
people being quite excited about the card with him and Nathan Gorman when it took place.
Yeah,
And
that was a good fight.
so it's not like all of the step up fights were these like fights where there was no buzz and there was no interest. But moving on back to Italma, we won't really know what we have or what Frank has
Until
and Frank's son has until, to Base's point, he gets in there with somebody that has a little bit more resistance. I was actually hoping at the time of the announcement of the 5v5 that we could get a Talma versus Johnny Fisher. I thought that would be a very exciting fight.
the internet's been asking for that.
That would have been a fight I would have loved to see. I don't know if it's not possible anymore because they're saying he's going to fight on the undercard of the Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk undisputed fight, right? But the
Yes.
5v5, I would have loved to see Italma versus Fisher, because if Italma is what all of these people are saying he is, he had his trainer on Friday night saying that he's gonna has the talent to be the best heavyweight of all time. We've got people at the time when he made his pro debut saying that he was going to beat Mike Tyson's record.
Yeah.
That handsome young man sits beside my man Dani over there. So those are my thoughts. Atalma versus Fisher would have been a great test, and I think it would have provided exactly what Base was calling for in his comments.
Somebody who's going to fight back. Dani, I like it.
Yeah, the reason why I don't think they will put Moses versus Johnny Fisher, because remember this show is going out to the world, so these guys are not really names the world are going to know. So it's a good fight for us, but remember this has to be sold and built out to the world. You've got people already talking about the AJ and Garnu figures out in America, even though the fight wasn't really built and made for that market over there. Why don't they talk about how many pay-per-views it sold over here? That number's still not come out yet, but I know that is a lot more than that. 6 something thousand, something
4.6, I think.
Yeah, something like
number.
that. Yeah, but they're not talking about the European figures or the UK figures. For Ituama, well, I haven't seen any Fujimotos or Tetes on his record yet, so it seems Daniel actually has had a bit of a sterner ride in his early part of his career thus far than Ituama. But Ituama, the thing that is similar is that Frank was like, oh yeah, he's going to be the youngest ever world champion. But he's not, is he? He's not. He's got, what, a year to do it? He ain't going to be a world champion in a year and break Mike Tyson's record.
To be fair, it wasn't Frank saying that. That's what he said. That's what he wants. We'll guide him the right way, and if he can get there, we'll certainly help him. Just to give Frank his respect on that.
Okay, well, he definitely was saying it about Dubois, though. I remember that one, 100%. But anyway,
I think he's learned from Dubois, but
yeah, I think maybe he has. Because at the end of the day, he's 19 years old. All the top boys, they're all like in their 30s now.
Yep.
Got young aficionado here, just learning, but it's good. Yeah, so they're all in their 30s now. Ituama's got so much time on his hands. He doesn't need to be going into these hard tests. We saw what happened to, Huey Fury. He was doing that early doors. He had a lot of hard fights.
Yeah, he did have a lot of good names on his. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and it's like, where is he now?
He did. Early on in his career, he did.
Yeah, he's making only a comeback now. Ituama, he's got time to just learn his trade, learn his ropes. It is interesting as to why he didn't, try to go for like a Commonwealth Games or the World Championship Games or Olympic Games. I don't think he even won the ABAs. I know he was a good standout junior amateur. So it's strange why he didn't decide to go into the senior route of the amateurs. But hey, while he's learning his trade as a pro, remember, it's heavyweight, so you can't really play with them too much when they haven't really developed. 19 years old heavyweights, they're not really developed like that against these.
Yeah, he hasn't even got his man strength yet.
Yeah, we saw what happened to it, and he's seen what has happened to his own brother. When his brother got stepped up just a couple of notches, he ended up getting skin out, live on TNT Sports.
You're like heavyweight.
So you have to be careful with him, So yeah, just let him build and do what he's got to do. But yeah, I think his opponents for right now is sufficient, especially as the British scene is tied up. You're going to throw him in there with Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark and David Adelaide and these big guys? No, you can't do that, and you definitely surely ain't going to put him in there with the world titleists. Would you?
He's looking to put him in with the winner of the English title, which is either going to be David Adelaide or Solomon Dacres. So he believes that Moses is at that level. Yeah, so he is going in there with the boys that have had 10 plus fights.
Yeah,
that will fight back. Because both of them will fight back.
Yeah, they'll definitely fight back. And even if he was to fight Johnny Fisher, we know the Romford Bull definitely fights back. So yeah, the English title, if he does get that next, I think that's a big step up for him. Dacres, yeah, he's not really a power puncher, and his last couple of performances haven't looked really good. David Adelaide, he is aggressive and a strong kind of guy, even though he is he's an aggressive, tries to look for the counter shots more. I think he'd probably have an easier time with someone like Solomon Dacres.
So they're skipping over Fisher's level then, because if memory serves me well, Fisher is the Southern area heavyweight champion, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're skipping over that level.
And I'm not sure who's the central area. I know there's a fight between Steve Robinson and
Alan Babbage.
Yeah, Alan Babbage. Yeah, there's that fight as well. So listen, it's some tough nights ahead for this guy. So yeah, just let him grow, man. Let the youth grow. I think
I'm definitely down with that
personally. So that's why they've got to slow it all down.
I agree. I do agree. I've got to apologies. WM Boxing Views, thank you very much for the donation of £4.99. The narrative that Fury is this masterful boxer and generational great will finally be going to put to bed when Usyk schools him in May. And he finishes off with prayer hands. Brutal. Brutal. Let me go through some of these chats because I want to go on the Emma. Thank you so much. Emma's one of our regular listeners. Thank you so much. Great live, but even greater to have you here. Frank's been cooking yard to get roasted by the elite fighters with the mediocre roots. Maul's in the chat. AP, one of my faves. Shalom and Boxer haven't a clue. Okoli trying to become a 2-weight champ. Boxer need to come off Sky, open Skype to all promoters. And thank you, Reese, because what I would like to see, and I don't know if this is possible, we have a lovely, growing, small hall show, if you want to put it like that, like non-televised as such, shows in the UK. Now, there's plenty of that Sky could like open up and start putting up, broadcasting those shows on their platform. I think it'd be brilliant for British boxing. We'd get to see some fighters that, really try their hardest and are good fighters, but they're just not yet ready for those big, bright lights. But getting these opportunities, I think, is a really good idea. So thanks, Reese. You've just jogged my memory about that. Sorry, was you going to say something, Maestro?
Yeah, I was going to say that a lot of people know Lou DiBella's a promoter, but Lou DiBella's first major role in boxing was essentially as a overseer of HBO boxing, HBO Sports. So, and they at that time they would work with all promoters. So they would just buy fights on a fight by fight basis. Yeah, we like that fight. We don't like that fight. And it oftentimes had fights between rival promoters. So if Sky could get into a situation like that, and it seems like that's what they used to be doing. There was a time I remember when Frank Warren was there and Matchroom was on there and Mick Hennessy, or was Mick Hennessy? No, it was Mick. I'm trying to remember all of the, but there were a few all on Sky. Like they had
there were actually, to be fair.
Frank Maloney.
Hennessy was on Channel 5 as well.
Yeah, so if they could get back to that, because honestly, hitching themselves to Boxer and Ben Shalom has not really been that fruitful in my opinion. But you guys would know they're on that side of the pond. I'm on this side of the pond. But looking at what I see, they've clearly taken a nosedive in terms of the quality and consistency of the boxing output.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is end our Sunday service with an article, and I've got to shout out the Times, Sunday Times magazine, because that's where we got this from. And they highlighted talking about the forging relationship with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. It was then almost unthinkable that Hearn and Warren should work in tandem. The pair had famously never spoken directly during their years of bitter rivalry, but Saudi Arabia's riches have brought the promoters together, and they've recently collaborated on several shows. The migration of major British boxing bouts to Riyadh has also resulted in more agreements between rival broadcasters, with DAZN sub-licensing rights to TNT Sports box office and Sky Sports box office for the undisputed heavyweight title bout between Fury and Alexander Usyk in May. Sky Sports had been the dominant force in British boxing before Hearn's departure in 2021. However, its commitment to the sport, beyond such a showpiece fights in the long term, remains somewhat uncertain, with senior figures within its boxing operation fearful the broadcaster could pull out of the sport, if it's deemed more hassle than it's worth. Sky signed a 4-year contract with Boxer, the promotional outfit co-funded by Ben Shalom, in June 2021, worth $36 million, and is currently deciding whether to extend that contract. What are we seeing here? And that's the note that I want to end on. Guys, we can leave that as a cliffhanger until we talk next time, but I think that's the end of our Sunday live. Thank you all 234 of you across all of our 4 platforms that have joined us today. We will be doing this again. I can't thank you enough for the super chats, the conversations, the chats that have come up really good conversations in there as well. Please subscribe to Maestro on YouTube, Dani Fight Fan TV on YouTube, and Basedakid on YouTube also. And you know what we say. Stay ready. Any final words from the panel before we close our prayers for Sunday? Church.
It's Danny Glover, October Red, Maestro, Basedakid, and remember, persistence beats resistance. You know where it is.
I'm just greeted with pure silence. You man are dead. Look at Base. Base, go back to bed.
The hardcore casual out.
Maestro?
Thank you, October Red. Thank you, Dani, Base, and all of the people that have tuned in today. I hope that we do this more often and enjoy your week. I will say one thing, just thoughts, RIPs, all of the victims of the terrible attack in Moscow. That was very unfortunate, terrible to see. So, you know, let's just the message.
Yeah, Jack brought that up earlier in the chat, actually.
Yeah. So, and obviously for our brothers and sisters in Palestine as well, specifically Gaza.
And on that note, guys, we will leave you to it until the next time. Stay ready.